You know the human heart is a funny thing. You build walls around it brick by brick with trust and loyalty. You think it's invincible. Then one night, a single unexpected sound can crumble everything. I still hear it even now, years later. A laugh. Light, unrestrained, almost giddy. And it wasn't mine. It drifted from a dim corridor at the Grand Hyatt, far from the elegant chaos of my firm's 20th anniversary gala. My husband Marcus had just vanished from my side ostensibly to grab another round of champagne. But my gut, that primal instinct you learn to trust after years of navigating courtrooms, screamed otherwise. Every fiber of my being pulled me down that hallway, drawn to the sound that would shatter my entire world. The door was ajar, a sliver of light escaping. I held my breath, pushing it open just enough to peer inside. And there he was. Marcus. My Marcus. His hand wasn't holding a drink, but tracing slow, intimate circles on the small of a woman's back, her blonde hair impossibly sleek and bright, under the soft lamp spilled over his shoulder as she leaned into him. Serafina, his new assistant. A girl barely out of college with wide blue eyes and a deceptive innocence. The way he looked at her, it was the look I used to get, the one that promised forever. My mind went blank. The music, the chatter, the clinking glasses, it all evaporated. The air left my lungs. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. I could only stare frozen as the perfect picture of Marcus of us shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The sound of her happy, carefree laugh, it echoed like a mocking siren in my ears. I didn't make a sound. Couldn't. I retreated, pulling the door shut with a feather-light touch, as if the slightest noise might solidify the nightmare I was living. Back in the ladies' room, I stared at my reflection. My face was chalk white, my eyes dark, hollow. The sapphire dress, once a symbol of my joy, now felt like a cruel costume. The wedding ring on my finger was suddenly heavy, cold, a cruel mockery. When Marcus finally returned to our table, he looked so normal, so oblivious. He smiled, waved me over. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" "You were gone a while." I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like it would crack my face, just enjoying the quiet for a moment. The lie tasted like ash. My years of legal training, of sharp observation and unwavering composure, had become my cruelest enemy. A few minutes later, Serafina reappeared. Her cheeks flushed her lips a little too full, and then I knew. With a certainty that chilled me to the bone, this wasn't the first time. The rest of the night was a blur of polite hell, a cruel charade. Every touch, every word from Marcus felt like a fresh betrayal. The man I loved, the man I trusted implicitly, had been living a secret life, and I, the supposedly sharp and discerning Ilara Vance, had been utterly blind. I watched him dance with me, holding me close, smiling down at me, and all I could think was, how long, how many times? The drive home was silent, thick, with an unspoken tension that only I felt. He hummed a tune from the radio, seemingly content. I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur, my mind racing. The perfect picture of my marriage of Marcus had been nothing but a facade. The next morning, Marcus left for work, whistling. I sat at our kitchen island, the sun streaming in, making everything look deceptively normal. But nothing was normal. My hand trembled as I typed Private Investigator Seattle into the search bar. Ilara Vance, the Iron Lady of the courtroom, wouldn't go down without a fight. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a shattered trust, a fundamental disrespect. I hired a PI, a gruff but efficient woman named Brenda. 2 weeks later, I had the photos, the videos. 4 separate dates. Dinners, late-night coffees, even a weekend trip to a cozy little cabin in the Cascades, rented under a fake name. The detective's report confirmed my worst fears. Marcus and Serafina had been close for months, possibly since his business trip to Portland 8 months ago. Damn it, I loved him. I thought he loved me too. The words screamed in my head, but I kept my voice calm when Brenda presented her findings. Later that day, I pulled my car into the garage. Marcus's car was already there. He was rarely home before me. My heart lurched. Was he sick? I needed to check. "Marcus, you okay?" I called out, stepping into the house. No response. I was about to head upstairs when I saw him sitting in the living room, quietly sipping something from a shot glass. Marcus never sat in the living room unless we had guests, and the liquor bottle was sitting right on our antique cherrywood table without a coaster. The anger, hot and sharp, flared. "Damn it, Marcus, that's an expensive table, you'll ruin it." He looked up, his eyes strangely vacant. "Figured since you ruined our marriage, I could at least ruin some furniture." His voice was barely a whisper, but it cut me like a whip. I know that's not an appropriate response, but then again, what else would you expect from the betrayed husband? My jaw dropped. I tried to speak, but my voice failed. "Go on, Ilara. This is the part where you tell me it was just sex, that it meant nothing." His voice was a rasp, now filled with a pain I hadn't known he possessed. I sank into the armchair across from him. My legal mind, usually so quick, was suddenly an empty vessel. Tears stung my eyes, then flowed freely down my cheeks. "No, you have no right to cry like that," he blurted out, his voice rising. "You have no right to pull at my heartstrings with your tears. You cheated. You played me for that smarmy bastard." He emptied his shot glass slowly, pouring another. "I didn't mean for this to happen," I whispered, finally finding my voice. "I wasn't looking for him." "But you obviously didn't stop him when he came after you," he shot back. My thoughts raced. I hadn't expected to be caught, but I'd played out scenarios in my head. I needed to say as little as possible to minimize the lies. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. "I don't love him, Marcus," I finally said. "He's just tall, energetic, charming. And..." Common sense stopped me. I almost told him what a wonderful lover Serafina was. Did he realize what I was about to say? His eyes met mine, a cold fire burning within them. "I saw you two kissing at the Christmas party," he said. My blood ran cold. I realized something was going on. It took everything in me not to end both of you right then and there. "How long, Ilara?" I turned pale. "The first time, it was during your business trip to Portland. You know, the one you talked about so much after the Sterling and Stone party. He was so smug that night, basically throwing it in my face. It was scary and exciting both at once. He had me. That's the kind of man he is. He takes what he wants. He wanted me and I wanted him. From then on, we met every week. Dating. Dating, how quaint." Marcus sneered, his voice laced with venom. "You slept with him every week for 9 months. Just say it. It's too late for hiding now." I flinched visibly. He noticed and forced himself to calm down, taking another sip of his bourbon. "Why couldn't you show me at least a little respect and ask for a divorce first instead of cheating on me?" "Ilara, I'm not such an unreasonable person." My eyes went wide. Divorce? Despite everything, I had never once considered such a possibility. I didn't want a divorce. I was absolutely certain that Marcus loved me too much to consider such a thing. Maybe I thought quickly I could even go back to Serafina once things settled down, and we wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. Yeah, I don't love him. I just can't resist him. I barely exhaled. He's strong. There's something special about him. He's dynamic. He just takes what he wants, and I love it when I become what he wants. But that's all lust. None of that has anything to do with love. The love that you and I shared, Ilara, past tense. His words were a hammer blow. "Marcus, please," I exclaimed, desperation creeping into my voice. "We love each other. Surely we can work on being together again." A week later, I was served with divorce papers. It happened just as I was called into the waiting room, feeling sexy and languid after a long lunch with Serafina. My mood shifted instantly. Oh my God, he did it. I muttered under my breath loud enough for the receptionist to hear. She smirked knowingly. My affair with Serafina was no secret among the staff, despite what I thought. The receptionist quickly sent a text message to someone. Marcus was notified. Papers filed Friday, 2:54 p.m. My first phone call came at 2:57 p.m. He ignored it. And the next 4. Then I switched to my work phone. He ignored those too. After about an hour, I left my office, most of that time spent in tears. When I got home, Marcus was already there. I sighed heavily. I'd hoped for more time before the Spanish Inquisition I knew was coming. "How could you?" I said quietly as I entered the house. "I work with these people. You just made me look like an—" "As if you haven't been making a fool out of me with your affair for the last 9 months," he roared back angry. "I thought you loved me." I recoiled. Until recently, Marcus had rarely raised his voice. He usually just acquiesced on the rare occasions we argued. I had often taken his reluctance to engage as a lack of intelligence, whereas perhaps I should have seen it as a sign of reflection and love. "We're done," Marcus said to my weeping form. "You broke our wedding vows. You have betrayed my trust and disrespected me. How can you say you still love me when all evidence suggests otherwise? I'm sorry, Marcus. I know it sounds cliché, but I do love you. Only you. And believe me, I'm sorry I hurt you," I exclaimed, sobbing. "But unless I'm missing something, you don't regret the affair, do you?" I continued to sob, but remained silent. For Marcus, that answer was more than enough. That night, Marcus moved out of our house and into a nearby apartment. I was desperate and called the only person I could think of. 15 minutes later, Serafina appeared in the driveway. Marcus, who had been watching from his car, uttered a few loud swear words and drove off. Serafina, the seasoned player. She was comforted me, holding me in her arms while I cried. It was one of the few times she never once said a bad word about Marcus. She said the right words in the right tone. She made no effort to get me into bed after I cried myself out. She cradled me against her on the couch until I fell asleep in her arms. She knew her actions that night would bear fruit in the future. Even though I didn't want to divorce Marcus, I continued to have sex with Serafina once or twice a week. I never saw the contradiction because I didn't want to see it. I continued to think that my affair with Serafina was unrelated to my marriage to Marcus. I refused to sign the divorce papers for some reason I didn't quite understand myself. I realized that sex with Serafina was no longer as exciting as it had been before Marcus found out. Serafina felt the same way, believing that I was simply too consumed with the divorce to pay attention in the bedroom. She felt that the passion would return soon after the divorce proceedings were finalized, and she began to escalate her verbal attacks on Marcus. My boss, Greg Gallagher, a kind and gruff man, had always been a father figure to me. When Marcus needed advice about real life, he'd often ask Greg. Greg felt sorry for his employee and friend. He gave me the name of the lawyer he had gone to for his own divorce. In fact, he gave me the name of the lawyer his ex-wife used because, in his opinion, his ex got more than she deserved through her lawyer. An hour after closing time, we were sitting in Greg's office, mugs of beer in front of us. Greg offered helpful advice and was willing to listen. "Just don't do anything stupid, Alara. I don't want to bail you out of jail. But I still need to get my piece of flesh." "Greg," I said, my voice hardening. "He screwed me and they both have to pay for it. I promise I won't do anything stupid, but I'm definitely not going to make it easy for him. The nice guy Alara died a couple weeks ago along with my marriage. 3 weeks later, I assumed Marcus had called off the divorce when he returned to the house, and in fact, our bedroom. It was a tentative truce. "It's up to you, Alara," Marcus said. "You have to make your choice. It's either her or me. You can't have us both. I love you, Marcus, not her, but she's really doing it for me. Can't I keep her too? I mean, just sometimes for sex?" I asked, my voice small. "That's not how I work, Alara. You of all people should know that. I'm giving you 2 weeks to break up with her. I met the deadline breaking up with Serafina before giving in to my husband. In those 2 weeks, I had sex 4 more times with Serafina. Marcus's detective kept him informed of my actions. So you called your lawyer and got the divorce dismissed. I asked Marcus as we lay side by side after some amazing sex a couple weeks later. "Oh yeah, I need to do that," he said nonchalantly. "Glad you reminded me." He leaned over and kissed me firmly on the lips. I responded fervently, suddenly forgetting my last thought. Since Marcus had come home, we'd had sex almost daily. I took that as a good sign. For his part, Marcus decided that he would get as much affection from me as he could, knowing that he was taking it away from Serafina. A few weeks later, Greg called Marcus at home in the evening. I only heard part of Marcus's conversation, but by watching the expression on his face, I could tell he wasn't entirely happy with what was going on. After hanging up the phone, he explained to me that because of a death in the family, Greg wouldn't be able to attend a landscaping seminar in Lansing, Michigan. But since it had been paid for in advance, he wanted Marcus to go instead. Marcus reluctantly agreed. He didn't feel an ounce of guilt for lying to me. The whole ruse had been to distract me from thinking about the official date of Marcus and Ilara's divorce. Instead of attending a landscaping seminar, Marcus was going to spend the week vacationing in Nags Head, North Carolina. On Thursday of that week, he was scheduled to officially get divorced, arrested, and tanned. Marcus returned home late Saturday night. I was embarrassed to see his deep tan. "Did you spend all your free time at the tanning salon?" I asked. "Wasn't necessary. The beach at Nags Head was great," he replied. Nags Head. In North Carolina. I thought you were in Lansing, Michigan. The landscaping seminar was in Lansing, but I was in Nags Head, hanging out on the beach and drinking margaritas to celebrate our divorce. "By the way, it became official on Thursday," Marcus said politely. "Wait, I thought you said you were going to call it quits," I replied wide-eyed. "I seem to have forgotten, sort of like you forgot your wedding vows." Marcus said, his voice flat. "But I love you. You love me. You came back to me, I left Serafina for you." I whimpered, tears streaming. "And that's the problem, my ex-wife. You shouldn't have given up Serafina," Marcus said, his voice now devoid of any emotion. "You disrespected me. You betrayed my trust. And of course, it was a breach of vows." I began to sob uncontrollably. "I love you, Marcus. Please, things have been better since you came back." "No, since I've been back, Ilara, the sex has been great. You're damn good at it, and I was going to get as much out of you as I could. But if you've been paying attention, all we've been doing is having fun. I haven't made love to you in forever. I wanted to give you hope, to break your heart the way you broke mine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go pack my things." 2 weeks later, Serafina was making love to me in my own bed. I was still damn good at sex, although, to be honest with myself, I didn't think I enjoyed it as much as I used to. Stupid bastard nearly ruined the best figure I've ever had. Serafina thought probably. While Marcus was hurting emotionally for his ex-wife, he felt that the architect needed to be physically hurt for seducing me and for being a bore in the first place. It just so happened that 2 nights later Serafina was attacked as she was leaving the apartment of another mistress who didn't have as lush a body as mine, but who was still incredibly attractive in her mid-20s. One of her testicles had been crushed in a scuffle with the burglar. The police questioned me about jealousy, but felt they didn't have enough evidence to charge me. When the police released me, I immediately called Marcus. "I know you did it, you piece of trash," I yelled at him on the phone. I didn't need to tell Marcus who was calling. I knew he would recognize my voice immediately. "Good afternoon, Ilara," he answered, his voice maddeningly calm. "It's a beautiful day. Yes, I'm fine. I realize now that you called for some reason." I could practically hear him gritting his teeth as he dispensed with the pleasantries. He knew exactly why I was calling and enjoyed my discomfort. "Until you had this conversation with me, I never would have thought you were a vindictive bastard. I guess I underestimated you. You definitely showed me you could be in, but did you have to hurt her so badly?" "I have no idea what you're talking about, my dear," Marcus said. Who am I supposedly hurting? I couldn't believe how calm he was. When had he had time to become so conniving, I realized I was starting to get worked up. When did you find out she was sleeping with our new intern? I didn't even know it, but I put two and two together when she was attacked outside her apartment complex. It makes me look even more pathetic. Still, I think maybe I should thank you, I remarked. Well, I'd say you're welcome if I knew what you were talking about, Marcus replied. Okay, I understand you can't say anything, but thank you anyway. I know you still love me, I said, a flicker of hope. Marcus let the silence hang in the air for about 5 seconds. You can think whatever you want, Alara, but my love for you died a long time ago. In fact, I hated you for a while too. But then I realized I was giving you too much power over me. Now I just feel indifferent. I'm so sorry, Marcus. You'll never know how sorry I am, I declared, my voice breaking. You're right, Alara. I'll never know, because I just don't care. So there you have it. A story of how love can sour into something unrecognizable. It's a harsh lesson, isn't it? That sometimes the person you believe knows you best can also be the one who knows how to wound you most deeply. And that indifference, that's often more painful than anger. What do you think? Have you ever felt that sting of betrayal or the chilling realization that someone you loved could be so calculating? How did you pick up the pieces? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences help us all feel a little less alone. If this story resonated with you or if it made you think, please hit that like button and subscribe to Grandma's Journal for more real stories from life's messy, complicated journey. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Until then, take care of yourselves and remember, trust is earned, but it can be lost in a single heartbeat.